Can you imagine Jesus taking to the dance floor? That is way out there, isn't it? Well, when we go a little bit deeper into the scriptures, you know that Jesus participated in weddings, didn't he? The great wedding at Cana. And Jewish weddings lasted and lasted, like for a whole week. And they ran out of wine. Well, they came and Jesus multiplied wine. And I imagine they were all delighted in joy. And it doesn't say in the scriptures that he actually danced, but maybe, you never know, because there are traditional Jewish dances. And when the critics of Jesus told him or talked about him behind his back, they said, he's a glutton and a drinker. Okay, Jesus knew how to party, how to celebrate, how to enjoy life. Often we forget that not just the dark parts, the last weeks of his ministry, his suffering, but what was the joy? And he did celebrate. He knew what celebration is about. And sometimes, or just as we have heard in the gospel reading, Jesus tells his disciples, his friends, love one another. That's the core. We always come back to that. That's what Jesus said. And then comes this sentence, he says, I bring you joy, that your joy may be complete. It's about joy, my friends. It's the Easter joy. That's the joyous feast. Now, we have it in our music. We just sang, Rejoice, the Lord is King. We go up there. Or, Joy to the World, one of my favorite ones. Or, Joyful, Joyful. We know them all. Now, I remember that Flo Hassinger, one of our dear, dear ladies here. It was her way of opening or starting the morning. She rolled to the side, and as soon as her feet hit the ground, she opened up and said, this day is the day the Lord has made. Rejoice in it. Be glad and rejoice in it. Just to be alive. Just to be alive and be able to breathe. That's wonderful. Now, I like to hang around people who have a lightness around them. So when Joe Erdley helps at Loaves and Fishes, Joe can tell jokes with a straight face. And you don't know, does he mean it? Which way does it go? I say, Joe, you're special. He says, yes, I went to special education. And so it's kind of, we have our ways. And other people, like Paul Kottner, used to keep it light, just a joyful way. And Terry Burns, you have a beautiful way of just smiling and chuckling. And Alice Justice and Pastor Penny, and hanging out with people who have a lightness about them. And often, these people have not been spared of hardship, of struggle. But there is some buoyancy, something that comes back, something that lifts their spirits and lifts my spirit when I'm around them. And when you Google, look for Laughing Jesus. You remember the picture, don't you? Yeah. So in our series of how to face the winter blues, how to deal with the blahs of life, we started off with take a walk. Just get up and take a walk. Then the second Sunday was listen to music. Let the music express your mood and lift your mood and give that room. And today we're looking a little bit at what makes you chuckle? What makes you smile? What helps you open up? And for some people, like in the South where my wife Sigrid and I served before we moved here, it was like everything that's fun, everything that makes you laugh is a little bit suspicious, especially in church. So you don't dance, you don't drink, you're getting into dangerous territory. Well, I think it's okay to laugh here. And the great thing is if you can laugh at yourself. I'm still working on that. It's the knock-knock jokes. Yeah. So, there was this preacher. And he was looking and preaching, and one of the men used to nod off as soon as he started to preach. And he thought, well, let's teach him a lesson. Because usually he woke up at the end of the sermon when there was the loudness and the voice, and he'd kind of got him back up. Okay, I'm ready. So the preacher kept it pretty quiet toward the end of the sermon and said, everyone who wants to go to heaven, please stand. They all stood up, except the one who was dozing. And please sit down again. And now everyone who wants to go to hell, it woke him up, and he stood up as the only one. Yeah. Thank you, Fritz. Well, there were these two boys in town, and they had a reputation. 10-year-old Jimmy and 12-year-old Johnny. So it kind of happened whenever there was something going on in town, it came back to them. So a house was egged. Well, somehow Jimmy and Johnny were involved. And at some point it got so bad, their parents didn't know what else to do, so let's take them to the pastor, have the pastor talk with them. Well, the pastor said, on one condition, I take them, I'll talk to them, but one at a time. So Jimmy came into the pastor's office, and the pastor asked him, Jimmy, where is God? Jimmy looked, didn't know what to say. Pastor said again, Jimmy, where is God? Jimmy looked, he didn't know what to say. The third time, the pastor asked, Jimmy, where is God? You could see Jimmy tearing up, running from the pastor's office, Johnny right after him, right up the stairs to his own room, closed the door, and hid under the bed. And Johnny asked Jimmy, what did he say? Well, Jimmy says, God is gone, and they think we did it. Yeah. Or the Sunday school teacher has all the little boys and little girls come in, and she asks them, where is Jesus? And one of the little boys says, Jesus is in heaven. The teacher says, wonderful. And she asks around, where is Jesus? And the little girl says, Jesus is in my heart. Good, says the Sunday school teacher. And then the other little boy, where is Jesus? He says, well, Jesus is in the bathroom. The Sunday school teacher thinks, bathroom? Tell me more about it. Well, she says, you know what? At home, my mom always gets up first. Then after 15 minutes, my dad gets up, knocks on the bathroom door and says, Jesus Christ, are you still in there? Yeah. Joy is at the heart of our faith. Joy is really at the heart of our faith. There is an old tradition that it doesn't become Easter until you had a great laugh. There is actually a Holy Humor Sunday, the Sunday right after Easter, where there is something of freedom in laughing. And when you can laugh at yourself and the freedom of, And Jesus knew that. Like the Gospel of Luke, you know, the big chapter number 15, he describes heaven as the woman who lost the coin. And when she finds it, the silver coin, she comes home. She comes to her friends. She invites them in. Let's celebrate the lost sheep. He finds it, comes back home. Let's celebrate. The prodigal son ran off. Come home. The dad threw a party for him. And even heaven in Revelations is described like the heavenly bride coming down. Just a few weeks ago, Joanne Aunties walked down her daughter Caroline to Pachelbel's D minor, D major, whatever. And I could feel the joy, the delight, the being deeply moved. I think that is part of our faith. And that's, I think, how grace moves into us, helps us set us a little bit more free. I have two older brothers, Conrad, the middle one. He had a real tough time for quite a while. So he got out of his apartment and walked around, and one place where he stopped by was at a playground, just watching kids. Watching kids in a self-forgetfulness, just being. There was some beauty, some healing for him that happened there. So what makes you chuckle? What makes you smile? What makes you crack up or laugh? And will you move toward that? Will you give yourself permission to experience the freedom, the healing, and the wholeness of humor?